Think about the last time you felt unusually warm. Now imagine that sensation, but on a global scale. That's global warming. To truly understand global warming, we must first grasp the concept of the greenhouse effect. Imagine a greenhouse. It traps the sun's heat, creating a warm environment that's perfect for plants. Our Earth behaves similarly. Its atmosphere traps the sun's heat, keeping our planet at a comfortable temperature that supports life. But what happens when this natural process goes into overdrive? Well, that's where global warming comes in. The burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas contributes to the release of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane. These gases, once in the atmosphere, act like a thermal blanket, trapping more heat than necessary. This leads to a steady rise in Earth's average temperature. And it's not just about burning fossil fuels. Deforestation plays a significant role too. Forests are like the Earth's lungs, breathing in carbon dioxide and exhaling oxygen. But when we cut down trees, not only do we lose these natural carbon sinks, but we also release stored carbon back into the atmosphere, further exacerbating the warming effect. This phenomenon isn't new. Since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution in the late 18th century, human activities have been pumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere at an unprecedented rate. This has led to a rapid increase in Earth's average temperature, a trend that scientists call global warming. But here's the kicker. The consequences of our actions are not just confined to warmer days or melting ice caps. The impacts of global warming are far-reaching and complex, affecting everything from our weather patterns to our food supply and even our health. In essence, global warming is an excessive heating of our planet, and we humans are the main culprits. Now that we understand what global warming is, let's delve into its consequences in the next scene. Because understanding the problem is the first step to solving it. So, Earth gets a little warmer. What's the big deal? Well, it's a bigger deal than you might think. Global warming isn't just about sweating a bit more during summer. It's a complex, far-reaching issue that affects every facet of our lives, from the weather patterns we experience to the biodiversity of our planet, and even our economies. Let's start with extreme weather events. As our planet heats up, our weather gets a lot more unpredictable and a lot more intense. We're seeing heavier rains and more severe droughts, more powerful hurricanes, and even colder winters in some parts of the world. These aren't just inconveniences, they're life-threatening events. Large-scale flooding can displace entire communities, while intense heat waves can cause fatal health conditions. Next, let's talk about biodiversity. Our planet is a complex web of life, with each species playing a crucial role. But as global temperatures rise, many species can't adapt quickly enough. They're forced out of their habitats or driven to extinction. The loss of these species isn't just a tragedy in itself, it also disrupts ecosystems, affecting other species and even human agriculture and fishing. Finally, there's the economic impact. Extreme weather events and loss of biodiversity can wreak havoc on economies. Floods and droughts can destroy crops, causing food prices to skyrocket. The loss of species can impact industries like fishing and tourism. And then there's the cost of rebuilding after disasters or relocating communities threatened by rising sea levels. It all adds up to a hefty price tag. In short, global warming is not just about hot summers. It's about altering the very fabric of life on Earth. It's about facing a future where our homes, our food, our health, and our economies are all at risk. But it's also about recognizing that we have the power to change this future, to take steps to mitigate the effects of global warming and create a more sustainable world. The question is, will we choose to use that power? Imagine your home slowly sinking beneath the waves. For many, this is not just a nightmare, but a reality. As global warming progresses, the polar ice caps, those vast white landscapes of the North and South Poles, are melting. And this is not just an issue for the polar bears or the seals, it's an issue for all of us. When ice melts, it turns into water. And where does that water go? It flows into the oceans, causing sea levels to rise. And when sea levels rise, coastal areas, the places where a large chunk of the world's population calls home, are at risk. We're not just talking about island nations or beachfront properties. Major cities like New York, London, and Shanghai could be significantly affected. But it's not just about losing land. Rising sea levels can lead to more intense storm surges, which can cause devastating floods. Think of it like a bathtub. The higher the water level, the more likely it is to overflow. And let's not forget about saltwater intrusion. As sea levels rise, saltwater can encroach on freshwater sources, contaminating drinking water and agricultural lands. This could lead to a whole new set of problems, including water scarcity and food shortages. The displacement of people is another significant issue. We're not just talking about a few hundred or a few thousand people. We're talking about millions of people who may be forced to leave their homes, their communities, their livelihoods. This could lead to economic instability, social unrest, and a global refugee crisis. Global warming is not just about hotter summers or milder winters. It's about our homes, our food, our water, our safety, and ultimately, our survival. And the melting poles and rising seas are a major part of this story. Sea level rise is not a distant threat, but an ongoing reality. And it's a reality that we all need to face because the choices we make today will determine the kind of world we will live in tomorrow. Remember, global warming is not just an environmental issue, it's a human issue, and it's an issue that we can no longer afford to ignore. A warmer planet means more than just hotter weather, it also means a hotter health crisis. You see, climate change isn't just about melting ice caps and endangered polar bears, it's about us, our health, and our survival. Let's start with the obvious. As the world heats up, we're seeing a rise in heat-related illnesses. From heat exhaustion to heat stroke, these conditions can be fatal, especially for the elderly, the very young, and those with chronic illnesses. But it's not just the direct heat that's a problem. Extreme temperatures can also exacerbate heart and respiratory conditions, leading to more hospital admissions and, tragically, more deaths. But the health impacts of global warming go beyond heat. They're also changing the game for infectious diseases. Warmer climates enable disease-carrying insects like mosquitoes to thrive and spread diseases like malaria and dengue fever further afield. It's not just tropical diseases either. In many parts of the world, we're seeing a rise in tick-borne illnesses like Lyme disease as warmer winters allow these pests to survive and multiply. And then there's the mental health toll. The stress and anxiety caused by extreme weather events and the uncertainty of our future can lead to a range of mental health issues, from depression to post-traumatic stress disorder. This is particularly true for those who have experienced climate-related disasters firsthand, such as floods, wildfires, and hurricanes. Furthermore, climate change affects the very air we breathe. Rising temperatures increase ground-level ozone, a key component of smog, which can trigger a host of respiratory problems, from asthma attacks to chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. In short, the health effects of global warming are vast, varied, and very, very real. They're affecting us right now, in our towns, our cities, and our homes, and they're set to get worse unless we take action. Global warming is not just an environmental issue, but a public health crisis. It's a crisis that's silently, steadily, insidiously claiming lives, but it's a crisis we can combat. How? Stay tuned to find out. We've seen the problem. Now let's look at some of the things we should stop doing to slow down global warming. First up, don't ignore energy conservation. In our modern lives, it's easy to take for granted the convenience of flicking a switch for light or adjusting a dial for heat. But each time we use energy, we're contributing to carbon dioxide emissions, the primary driver of global warming. So, remember to switch off the lights when you leave the room. Keep the thermostat a degree or two lower in winter and a degree or two higher in summer. Consider energy-efficient appliances and light bulbs. These small changes can have a big impact. Next, don't waste food. It might not seem like it, but food waste is a significant contributor to global warming. When we waste food, we're not just throwing away the food itself, but all the resources that went into producing it, the water, the land, the energy. And when food decomposes in landfills, it releases methane, a greenhouse gas 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So, plan your meals, buy only what you need, use leftovers creatively, and compost what you can't eat. Third, don't underestimate the power of your vote. Government policies play a crucial role in addressing global warming. By voting for leaders who recognize the seriousness of climate change and are committed to taking action, we can help drive systemic changes. Let your voice be heard. Use your vote to demand climate action. Finally, don't keep using single-use plastics. These items are not just an eyesore in our environment, they're a source of carbon emissions. The production of plastic requires fossil fuels, and when plastic waste breaks down, it releases greenhouse gases. Plus, only about 9% of all plastic waste has ever been recycled. The rest ends up in landfills, incinerators, or the natural environment, where it can take hundreds of years to decompose. So, ditch the disposable water bottles, plastic bags, and straws. Opt for reusable or biodegradable alternatives instead. These actions might seem small, but when billions of people do them, the effect on our planet is enormous. We've all heard the saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. If we each take these steps, we can begin to turn the tide on global warming. It's not just about saving polar bears or preserving beautiful places for future generations, though those are important too. It's about ensuring the survival of our species. It's about safeguarding our homes, our health, our economies, our very way of life. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of global warming, but remember, change doesn't have to start with grand gestures or heroic acts. It starts with us, in our everyday choices and actions. Don't wait for someone else to solve the problem. Be part of the solution. Start today, right now. Because every action counts. And every action has a ripple effect that can reach farther than you might imagine. So let's do this. Let's stop ignoring energy conservation. Let's stop wasting food. Let's use our votes to demand climate action. And let's say goodbye to single-use plastics. Because when it comes to global warming, what we don't do can be just as important as what we do. These actions might seem small, but when billions of people do them, the effect on our planet is enormous. We've looked at what not to do. Now let's focus on what we can do. So you might be thinking, what can I, as an individual, do to combat global warming? Well, let's break it down. First, we can reduce energy use. Consider something as simple as turning off the lights when you leave a room. Or, how about taking public transportation, cycling, or walking instead of driving? These small steps can add up to significant energy savings over time. Next on the list is diet. The meat industry is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. Now this doesn't mean you have to become a full-blown vegetarian overnight, but perhaps try incorporating more plant-based meals into your week. A meatless Monday, maybe? Recycling is another powerful tool in our arsenal. It's not just about separating your trash, it's about reducing, reusing, and recycling whenever possible. Can you repurpose that glass jar? Can you compost your kitchen scraps? And when you do need to buy, consider purchasing products made from recycled materials. And finally, let's talk about the power of the ballot box. Voting for politicians who prioritize climate action can lead to powerful systemic change. This doesn't just mean in the big elections, but in your local and state elections too. These officials make decisions about things like public transportation and energy policy. Remember, all of these actions may seem small in isolation, but it's the collective impact that matters. It's like a puzzle. One piece might not seem like much, but put all the pieces together, and you have a beautiful, complete picture. So, let's start putting our pieces together. Let's start making those small changes. Let's start voting, recycling, reducing our meat consumption, and conserving energy. Every action counts. Together, we can make a difference. Global warming might seem like a daunting challenge, but remember, every journey starts with a single step. We've explored the sobering reality of global warming, its effects on our poles, seas, and health, and the dire consequences of inaction. We've also shed light on the actions we should avoid, like ignoring energy conservation, wasting food, underestimating the power of our votes, and the continued use of single-use plastics. But it's not all doom and gloom. We've also underlined practical steps that each one of us can take to make a difference. Small changes in our daily lives, like conserving energy, reducing food waste, voting for environmental policies, and limiting our plastic use can collectively make a massive impact. So let's step up and take responsibility. It's time to change our habits, our attitudes, and our world. Remember, the Earth doesn't need saving. It will continue with or without us. It's our survival that's on the line, so let's act now.